This is the second in a series of presentations on the history of the Middle East. In the first, we looked at the start of Western civilization in the land between the rivers and in Egypt. It's just amazing how long the Egyptian kingdom lasted. It was for at least a couple thousand years. There were so many rulers that it's too unwieldy to talk about individual rulers. Historians today talk about the rulers of ancient Egypt in terms of its dynasties, or the lists of their kings. There were about 30 dynasties from 3000 BCE until the Romans took over around 30 BCE. Now, some countries have been doing pretty well to have at least 30 rulers. In America, I think we've had 44 presidents. I think Obama is number 44. So that's showing good longevity. But ancient Egypt saw 30 dynasties, 30 lists of kings. It just boggles the mind to think of how long the Egyptian civilization lasted in ancient times. And it's interesting to note that Egypt entered a stage of decline around the time of the Exodus, when Moses and the children of Israel left Egypt. Devout Jews and Christians, like myself, can tell you exactly why Egypt went into decline. Any kingdom would be in trouble after suffering 10 horrible plagues, like flies or cattle disease or the death of the firstborn. The Israelites left Egypt and eventually established a strong kingdom. In the 900s BCE, under King David and King Solomon, they enjoyed hegemony over the surrounding lands, with Jerusalem as their capital. Most scholars today recognize the contribution of the Israelites as introducing monotheism to the world, the idea of faith and ethical principles. The Israelites were the first to insist that they worshipped a universal God who controlled the world, the universe, and everything. The Israelites did not worship other gods, or at least they were commanded to not worship other gods. They didn't always follow those commands. To the north of Israel, the Phoenicians ventured deep into the sea and established an economic empire on the islands and distant lands of the Mediterranean. Some say that the Phoenicians might have even landed in America. In the 900s and 800s BCE, the Arameans exerted their power. They were located in the area of present-day Syria. The Arameans never unified. They remained a confederation of tribes, but their chief city was Damascus, and their language, Aramaic, later became the common language of the entire Middle East. You can read in the Bible about the struggles of the Arameans with the northern kingdom of Israel. The Arameans soon disappeared, swallowed up by the Assyrians, who established a massive empire in the 800s BCE. The Assyrians built the first great world power, conquering other peoples and maintaining control for a long period of time. They developed the practice of deporting conquered peoples, dispersing them throughout the rest of their territories. They severed ties with the homeland of these people and caused them to intermarry with other peoples. It sounds like America, actually. We are a people who have migrated from other places and intermarried with other cultures. The Assyrian capital was the ancient city of Nineveh, with the religious center at Ashur, or Assur, where archaeologists uncovered a huge library. They found thousands of clay tablets, and these served to provide a valuable source of information on the ancient world. Then the Babylonians rose to power in a flash of glory. They quickly conquered the Assyrians, and just as quickly lost their power. Around the 620s BCE, the Chaldeans, or the people of the sea lands, emerged from the marshy area around the Persian Gulf, which was, by the way, the area where Iraq and Iran fought over in so many bloody battles in the 1980s. The Chaldeans conquered Babylon in 626 BCE, and under the leadership of Nabopolassar, they began to attack the Assyrians. I mention his name just because it's fun to say, Nabopolassar. And his son was Nebuchadnezzar, a name that's familiar to anyone who's read the Bible. In 614 BCE, with the help of the Medes and the Scythians, the Babylonians conquered Assur, and in 612 they destroyed the city of Nineveh. The Babylonians went on to control all of the territory of the Assyrian Empire. Now, Babylon holds a certain place in the modern imagination because of their mention in the Bible. The Babylonians destroyed Jerusalem and Solomon's temple and carried the Jews into captivity. The major prophets Jeremiah and Ezekiel wrote of the Babylonians, and some of the best stories in the Bible are found in the book of Daniel concerning King Nebuchadnezzar. This king is also known for one of the 7 ancient wonders of the world, the Hanging Gardens. The story goes that Nebuchadnezzar was married to the daughter of the king of the Medes, who lived in the mountains and plains of present-day Iran. The story goes that Nebuchadnezzar's wife, living down by the great rivers, longed for the mountains of her homeland. So King Nebuchadnezzar built a huge pyramid, a mountain almost, filled with trees and bushes and other places for the birds to dwell. But the question is, how did he get water up to the top of this structure to keep the trees from dying? That's what makes it one of the 7 ancient wonders. One of the other ancient wonders is the pyramids of Egypt, and the other 5 have to do with the Greeks, who we'll get to a little bit later. Within 100 years of the start of the Babylonian Empire, they were conquered by the Persians. Remember, the Chaldeans captured Babylon in 626, and they lost control in 539. The Persians and the Medes came from the plains on the far side of the mountains, and under King Cyrus, the Persians built a huge empire from India in the east to Greece on the west. And this is one of the major divisions in the Middle East. The Babylonians, Assyrians, Hebrews, they're all considered to be Semitic peoples. The Persians were descended from the Indo-Europeans who came down from the north. The Persians are considered to be Aryans, and that's where the name Iran comes from today. This is a major division in the Middle East, the division between the Semitic Arabs and Jews and the Aryan Persians, and we'll see more about this division later on. In the 540s BCE, the Persians conquered the Anatolian Peninsula, where Turkey sits today. There are some fascinating stories on this war about how the Persians defeated the kingdom of Lydia, but no time for that today. In 539 BCE, the Persians took over the territory of the Babylonian Empire. They allowed the Jews and other peoples to return to their homelands and worship their own religions. And so that's the story of the great empires in the Middle East. The Arabs and the Persians and the Egyptians and all the other peoples in the Middle East region can look back at their ancestors because they were strong, proud people. And that makes a big problem because the strength and pride of the Middle East is all in the past. These ancient people built great cities. Their palaces and temples stood in the center of society. But then other countries rose to power, the people moved to other cities, and the great monuments were either destroyed or fell into ruin, forgotten by the world. Until archaeologists came along and uncovered what was left of these great monuments. And now these places are surrounded by tourists come to visit and see what remains of the ancient greatness. But to the people who live there, these ruins are reminders of how far they have fallen. How did the Middle East degenerate from the great powers to the mess that it's in today? That's what we'll look at in the following presentations.